Good morning.
How are you, Miss Kay?
I'm great.
Are you actually in Monroe this morning?
I'm in New York City.
Oh, my.
Is that like the craziest thing in the world that a little girl from up around Black Bayou is getting to hang out in New York City?
Yeah, I've never heard so many horns blowing on the cars in my life. We don't do that in the country, you know.
No. Well, we're in Shreveport, so we're not far from the kids and everybody.
Well, do you know I'm from Ida, Louisiana, and Phil's from Dixie, right next to Belcher, Louisiana. We grew up on Highway 71, and we actually did all our dates. Our fancy dates were in Shreveport.
So, like back then, I mean, what was the big place to go out in Shreveport back when y'all were dating?
Oh, this is hilarious. You're going to laugh. Our big restaurant of choice was El Chico's, the original one.
Uh-huh.
And then we always went to the homemade Southern-made donuts, of course.
You know, they just closed that original El Chico's just last week.
They did.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of an end of an era, if you will.
You know, the thing I remember the most was Phil would eat those chips and dips so much. He was pretty poor back then. And, of course, I think that's why he started dating me, because we had a grocery store. But I remember when he would try to eat as many chips and the dip as he could. He'd always get choked, but he would just keep on eating them. And then he would want me to order the biggest, El Chico dinner, and he would get it. And then he would eat his and half of mine.
Hey, listen, with you having the boys and Phil, obviously, and I mean, they're like the rest of us. They're into the outdoors, and they've got that kind of the world cornered. Has Phil ever brought something home and you said, no, I am not cooking that?
Well, you know what? They just asked me that in the studio.
Oh, really?
And what was the craziest thing, and it was back when we were at Louisiana Tech.
Uh-huh.
Of course, we were so poor, we couldn't have made it through school without the fish, the ducks, the deer, squirrel, everything, quail and doves, everything we ate because, Phil could just kill it or catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought home a wild hog. And I remember cooking that, boiling ham off that, and it was one of those boar hogs. And it started smelling, and the more it cooked, I was gagging at the end. And I finally said, I can't eat that. Take that out. And when you do, take the pan and get rid of it. I'll never get that clean.
Now, this is kind of neat because here you are now. You're a published author. You got a cookbook. And, I mean, you're in New York City taking phone calls back home to Louisiana to promote this cookbook. Would you have ever dreamed even 10 years ago that this would be happening?
No. And this is my second cookbook. I already have one.
Right.
Out that's been very successful. And no, for a girl that barely made it through high school, no, I never thought I would write 2 books. Of course not. That was crazy. I have always loved to cook.
Now, what's Phil's favorite meal?
Phil loves his duck gumbo. He makes his duck and dressing.
Mm-hmm.
He loves that. And then I make old-timey chicken and dumplings. He loves that. My biscuits, my cornbread. I'm the only one that makes the casserole Phil eat because a lady at a potluck dinner one time told him that she cleaned out her refrigerator. Well, from then on, he won't eat anybody's casserole except mine.
Oh, my goodness.
Because he thinks the food is old in it.
On the phone, it's Miss Kay Robertson from Duck Dynasty, and she's got her second cookbook out now. I noticed in there also, because you remained true to your Christian conviction. There's several places in there where you mention faith, and there's some Christian passages, some actual Bible verse and stuff like that in there. And Bristol and I are both believing that, that's the only way we're going to get America back on the right track is that, to be able to share our faith. And we actually had a situation last week where there was a local principal here, Albert Hardison at Walnut Hill, who was essentially chastised because of his Christian faith. What do you say about situations like that with the removal of prayer in schools and things of that nature? I mean, do you agree that it's going to take us to have a revival in this country?
Yes. I speak all over the country, and my husband does. He usually gets in a lot of trouble. But
it's good trouble.
That's right. because I'm going to tell you what, I think as Christians, we better all join together and start speaking out. And we haven't been doing that. And I think essentially the devil's just moved in and taken over. And now we're being punished because of our faith. And so many people say, well, this is not a Christian nation. And that just makes me so sad because that's how we started out. And I'm going to tell you something. Back when we did observe Christian principles and put God first, our nation was a lot better in that children were respectful. People were respectful to each other. And, families spent time together. And a lot of times, just like we show our family laughing together and having fun, but then we always remember God and say our prayer. We remember where we came from and what it's about. And I'm afraid America's become a very selfish, not caring about God nation. And therefore, it's a hard thing to see the difference between good and bad, evil and righteousness. It's just a blur now.
I read Phil's book, and you know what? It wasn't always that Phil was on the right track. Do you think that by him having some of the issues that he had in the past, that it made him even stronger in his Christian conviction now?
Oh, I know it did. And, when somebody tries to fool him and say, I just went to that bar, but I didn't get drunk, and I don't know how I even got there. And Phil said, well, I know how you got there. You got in your car and you drove there. And yeah, when you've had too many. I've been there. I did that. You're not fooling me. I'll never forget when Phil would come in from a night out that he, was ashamed of now. But back then, he didn't even know where our car was, our truck. He's lost whatever he was driving because he simply was so bad off, he didn't know where he left it. To come from that to be the great husband and father and, fun person on TV. And there's not a dull bone in Phil's body. That's what I told somebody. It was never boring being married to him. I can tell you that right now.